Welcome to Craig's Gun Channel. Today we're going to discuss the Arms HP22. In prior videos, I discussed its history and basic field strip procedures, as well as performed a range test using various ammunition selections. I received a lot of feedback from those releases, as well as some questions, so I wanted to do a follow-up video to address them. The first question I want to address is if the magazine will drop free or if it has to be pulled out. The answer to that is the magazines will not drop free. They must be pulled out by hand. This is due to the magazine disconnect feature that puts pressure against the magazine. Which brings us to the next area I want to address, the issue with the safety system on this pistol. Like many pistols, it features a magazine disconnect or safety that disables the trigger if the magazine is removed. There's various schools of thought on this, with one camp saying it makes it safer, and the other just the opposite. This is purely a matter of opinion, however, I fall in the latter camp myself. I prefer to be able to manipulate all of the controls whether a magazine is in the weapon or not. Also, the safety itself locks the slide so you can't manipulate it with the safety on, and furthermore, the magazine release itself is also tied to the safety, so you can't remove the magazine unless the firearm is on safe, nor can you take it off of safe unless a magazine is inserted. Essentially, when the firearm is on safe, you can't operate the trigger or manipulate the slide, and you can't put it on safe or take it off of safe unless a magazine is in it. This causes the pistol to operate differently than almost any other one out there and takes a lot of getting used to. Luckily, it's easy to modify to remove much of that interconnection and make it perform more like traditional pistols. This modification has the added benefit that it allows the magazines to drop free. Let's take a look. And of course, before working on any firearm, you need to do a safety check to make sure it is free and clear of any ammunition. So first of all, we'll take out the magazine. Magazine is free and clear. Oh, that's right. Okay, then lock the slide back. Then take out the magazine. Magazine is free and clear, and the chamber is free and clear. Okay. And as we can see there, I kind of just demonstrated some of the issue with having all that interconnection with that. So as they come from the factory, this is your safety right here that also doubles as the slide stop. Currently it is in the fire configuration. This up here is a firing pin block or a firing pin safety itself. So even if everything else was set up to fire, if this lever was down, like so, that would prevent the firing pin from being able to move forward far enough to fire the weapon should the hammer be cocked back and the weapon be fired. So we'll just go ahead and leave that on for now, just to make sure there's no damage occurring to the firing pin. So the interconnection with this, so right now with this on fire, you cannot remove the safety. The button will not depress down. If you put it on safe, now you can take the magazine out, but now you can't take it off of safe. You can't manipulate the slide because it locks the slide. You have to put the magazine back in. You can take it off of safe. Now it's on fire. Now you can manipulate the slide. Now you can lock the slide open and then remove it. However, that whole interconnection is different than pretty much any other pistol out there. I've never ran across another one that's like it. So the whole intent of me purchasing this firearm to begin with is I wanted to be able to economically shoot a concealed carry sized firearm, just for practice more than anything else. And this, overall, the firearm fit the size specifications very well. The only thing is it operated totally different. My carry firearm does not have all of that interconnection. It does have a safety, however, there's no magazine safety, and it just operates differently. So I wanted this to operate as close as possible to my carry firearm. So I went ahead and made the modifications that I'm going to show you here for my personal firearm. So we'll go ahead and show you how that works. So the first thing, go ahead and you just remove these two screws. It's all on this side, that's where everything happens. On the other side, you want to leave that on there. That's the fire control assembly where the trigger and the sear and all of that operates. You don't want to mess with any of that, because any change to any of the geometry or anything on there could cause the firearm to be unsafe or inoperable. So everything you want to do is on this side of the firearm. So we'll go ahead and remove those 2 screws right there. And we'll go ahead and put this on safe and take the magazine out. Should have done that before the screws, doesn't really matter either way. But so we'll go ahead and take the grip panel off. And this is what the inside looks like. This is your safety lever right here. Of course, there's the magazine release. This here is the magazine safety itself. And the way it works is... Actually, we'll take a look at the safety itself, because without the grip panel kind of holds everything in place. That little spring right there goes into these little notches here, and that's what makes this have a positive snap in the 2 positions. Of course, we can't go down right now because there's no magazine in it. We'll put the magazine back in. And then with the magazine in, now that is slide up and down. So this is the magazine disconnect right here. The magazine button here, it has a slot in it against the side, and this part of the safety, when you put it on fire, goes underneath that button. That's what keeps you from being able to eject the magazine. So when you, we'll go ahead and slide this down. When you slide this down, watch right here, that goes underneath this button, and that's what prevents you from being able to push it down. Now, this section here, this little black piece, that's the magazine safety, and what that does is it prevents you from being able to slide this lever down if the magazine's not in it. The way it works is it's a flat spring, and there's a piece right here that goes into a slot in the frame. And we'll go ahead and take the magazine out. And it's hard to see. I don't know if you can see it. When the magazine hits this section right here. Yeah, you never be able to see it here. Let's hold it up. If you notice, it goes up and down just slightly. And what that does is when you put a magazine in, it lifts this up just a tiny bit and allows this lever to then be able to go behind it. Without the magazine in there, that flat spring hits the bottom of the safety lever and doesn't allow it to move. So, what changes do we have to do to make this operate in a more traditional fashion? Well, first of all, the safety button itself, we'll go ahead and take it off. It just lifts out. Now, I would resist modifying the original safety. And the sole reason is just because you want to be able to put it back in its original configuration. You can order and get another safety from Phoenix Arms. They only cost a couple dollars. And make the modification to that, so that way you've got an original one. If you would ever want to, switch it back. If you know you're never going to switch it back, then you don't need to worry about it. And for that matter, I've seen on eBay that someone is taking these safeties and they're making the modification for you so that you can just buy one from them, although it costs you substantially more. They're charging you quite a bit of money to do that service. Basically, all you need to do is this little section right here, you just need to cut that off. And when you're done, you'll end up with one that looks like this. It's not much of a difference. That little piece that sticks out, you just remove it. That's the only change that you make to the safety itself. So then, when you put this back in, put our magazine back in so everything works. Now when you slide it down and it's on the fire position, you can still push the button down and remove the magazine. Okay, now the magazine disconnect, or the magazine safety. Like I said, it's just this spring piece of metal here. Now there's multiple ways you can modify this. This flat spring, like I said, it's got a little tab that goes down in there that engages the magazine. And actually, if you notice on the magazine, see if you can get the light to shine here on it. There's a line right down through there. That's what's dragging on that piece there, which is why the magazine usually won't drop free. Now, Some people are going to say, well, it drops free on mine, and it depends on the tolerances. If you have enough loose tolerance in the frame and on your magazine, there might not be enough pressure on there to hold it in place, so it may drop free. Generally, they won't drop free completely with this magazine disconnect in there because it's causing just enough drag. Now, you could shake it out, but the whole concept of a drop-free magazine is you hit the release and it'll drop right out. And so that drag will usually prevent that from happening. So how do you modify this? Well, it's a flat spring and it's held in place in the frame right here. It goes down into this pocket and this metal is kind of staked over it. Now you can remove this piece altogether. That makes a permanent change that, well, it would void your warranty for one thing because you're modifying the firearm. And it also would damage this. You might not be able to put that back together. Some people will cut this. There again, that's a permanent modification. Some people will just bend this up slightly so that whether the magazine's in there or not, the end of it is above the metal. Well, there's a third option, and that is to get something very small. Now, in this case, it started off life as a flat nail. A big staple would probably work. Really, just about anything that's got some substance that's just, it's very thin. It only has to really be the thickness of this slide material itself. And you basically just put it in between this spring steel and the frame. So you would just, here, let me just take this out just to get room. So you can just lift up slightly and you just slide it in there. There, and you can't even really see it once it's there. Then you put your safety back in, and now, if you notice, I didn't slide it down far enough. Now, if you notice, that is slide up and down. You just have to move it far enough down in there that it causes this spring to lift up slightly. And that's really all you need to do. I mean, you can slide it down as far as you want. There you go. And that's pretty much it. Put your grip panel back on. And you don't have to make these screws very tight. It's just holding plastic, so just snug them up a little bit. Now at this point, if you notice, our safety goes up and down, and the magazine's not in it. Put the magazine in. Now when you hit the release, it should just fall completely out. And that's pretty much it. Now everything still operates as far as the safety. If you put it on safe, that's still good. You'd have to put it on fire. But other than that, the safety now just operates as a traditional safety. It just keeps the trigger from operating the hammer. The magazine is perfectly happy to be released, whether it's the safety's on or off. And that's pretty much the modification. The next area I wanted to address has to do with dry firing. It's been noted that when I performed a function check that I neglected to engage the firing pin safety, which can cause damage to the pistol. This is true. Dry firing a weapon, especially a rimfire, can cause damage to the chamber face, the firing pin, or both. In the case of rimfires, the way that the firing pin works is to pinch the rim between the firing pin and the chamber face. The soft brass of the cartridge rim absorbs the impact and prevents damage to the firearm. With that being said, however, the reality is it's the same as when you're shooting and you run out of ammo. If you're not counting as you shoot, then you generally only know that you're out when you get that click of the hammer on an empty chamber. Due to this, it's almost unavoidable to not dry fire a pistol. However, you should try to minimize excessive dry firing when possible. The final area I wanted to cover was ammo selection itself. In my range test, I used a variety of ammunition, and much of it was high velocity. It was pointed out, correctly I may add, that the manufacturer recommends use of standard velocity ammunition. Their website indicates that failure to do so may cause poor performance. While I'm comfortable using higher velocity rounds in this pistol, I can only make that choice for me, and the only thing I can really add is that it's always best to follow manufacturers' recommendations regarding ammunition selection, both from a performance and a safety perspective. If you choose to use non-recommended ammunition, then that is your choice and you would be responsible for it. I hope that this information is of assistance to you, and if you like these types of videos, please hit the subscribe and notify buttons so that you don't miss anything. And of course, as always, until next time, stay safe.